Thank you for reminding it, Amritesh. I totally forgot about it. Okay. So, just for the sake of others, today we will be discussing about judging criteria for slope stabilization, something about a factor of safety, and some simple calculation examples, how factor of safety can be calculated. Okay, so coming to just revising what we did last time, we saw what were the various factors that were affecting the slope stability, and understanding them was important because there are so many, and each and every factor basically affects the slope stability in different ways. We can't just say by seeing one factor how it can affect others. However, it is very important to know the effect of each and every one of these factors. So, just running it through that we discussed last lecture. That was the first was geological aspects where rock joints were discussed. What are their properties and how each and every one of them is basically defining how a different slope is and how different slope behaves. Then we had some geometrical properties, the height, the slope angle, its ramps or berm widths, different factors defining how a slope physically is. And one of a major factor that can be actually seen by eye is the geometry of a slope and how it can affect uh, the stability. Coming to then the rock mechanical properties or the soil or the material properties to take up all of the cases. It's a strength, what is it, the moisture content of the soil or rock, what is the compaction, the size distribution as we were discussing yesterday, cohesion and friction, one of the most important parts, and some geotechnical properties like how the material behaves when suppose water content is introduced or added or subtracted or removed. So how a soil will behave may be quite different from how a rock will behave. So each of these parameters will be dictating how they will be affecting the slope stability based on the type of material. Then we had hydrology. What is the effect of water? How how it can be sometimes positively affecting us, how it can be a detrimental aspect to slope stabilization, the buildup of hydrostatic pressures, the pore pressure, the volume, the passing of water to the ground table and on making the soil saturated so that the properties of the soil totally change when they become saturated. So lots and lots of ways water can affect the slope. And we also saw what are the concept of porosity and permeability, how these things are related, and how these things affect water seepage, and in extension how these affect the stability of slope. And some external factors, obviously, that are the vibrations that are produced due to movement of vehicles, the vibrations of blasting, the seismic loads, the heavy loads that are placed over the slope, such as in Kedarnath area when there was a cloud burst. Most of the slopes were already heavily stressed due to the construction activities uh, that had happened along the years, and that was one of the most important factor of such a huge destruction that time. Uh, and similar loads that are there due to vehicular movement where roads are there, uh, train or track movement where train tracks are there, or due to infrastructure building, home building, and so on. So external forces are obviously a critical factor in every case which we have to take care. So now overall, when we say now what are the factors, it is uh, it is a combined effect of all these that actually dictates how stable a slope is and how easy it is to basically fail. So when we do such analysis, we take care of these factors as much as possible. However, not always there is a case that we get all these data. We can't always assume that we have the exact values of suppose the cohesion or friction of a soil, or in even rarer cases the Atterberg limits or the geotechnical parameters. We can't have precise readings of the vibrations that are caused due to blasting every time we do a slope stability analysis. We may not have all these factors with us. So uh, though individual factors affect, many of these factors are very interrelated. Suppose, giving you an example, a soil, the density of a soil is very much related to how much compaction a soil is in. So a highly compacted soil obviously will have a higher density as compared to the other way around, where if the soil is loose, the overall density will be less. Similarly, the optimum moisture content and the compaction, that also changes. Optimum moisture content is a point is one of the geotechnical properties which dictates that what is the maximum uh, density a soil or a granular material can attain if if the water content is increased or decreased. So an optimum moisture content, at optimum moisture content, there is the maximum dry density of that material. So that is another exercise which geotechnical analysis, for which geotechnical analysis is done, where gradually the water content of that material is increased, so to see how with the increase of water content the density is changing. So uh, what I mean to say is these factors are related, and and many of these can be actually correlated if one is available or the few of the parameters are available. So that as well as some intelligent assumptions are a part of our work as engineers. We have to make these assumptions, we have to make these calculations in order to understand how actually the slope will behave. So going ahead with the factors now, how to decide what is the way to decide, okay, uh, this slope is stable. First and very popular method is factor of safety, which we have already discussed, that it's the ratio of the strength to the stress. So how much strength is more than stress in relative terms is the measure of factor of safety. If strength is just equal to stress, it will be the factor of safety will be equal to 1, which is called a critical stability condition or a critical instability condition, whichever perspective you want to see. However, that is why most of the infrastructure or slopes or any other conditions, factor of safety is always considered to be greater than 1, 1.2, 1.4, 1, as per the application. We have to decide which is the desired factor of safety. We have to design this. Suppose a bridge is there, and as compared to that, a mining slope is there. So mining slope is a temporary structure that, even though may collapse, it may not be as detrimental as compared to a bridge collapse, which is designed for hundreds of years of standing, while a mine may be actually designed to collapse after some time because it is maybe a caving operation in underground cases, or maybe the instability is such that it can no longer hold itself together. So in both of these cases, the desired factor of safety will be quite different. So we'll be coming to that when we discuss today about the factor of safety cases. What is next? Next is critical strain. Now, this concept is something like strain, as we all know, is the ratio of displacement to the original dimension. So, even when we do some rock mechanical testing, if we are compressing, suppose, a cylindrical sample, and the cylindrical sample's original length is L, and we compress it to maybe L minus DL, or some change in length is there. So the ratio of this change in length to the original length is called strain. Now, strain is a dimensionless quantity, we understand that, but there is a limit after which is the strain is not workable. The slope with that threshold of strain, we cannot work forward. Suppose a slope is moving at the rate of 1 centimeter per year. Maybe by the time we are finishing with the mining operation, and the slope has maybe moved 20 or 30 centimeters, that may be not that may not be affecting the slope that much to that extent that it is detrimental to the working of the mine. In that case, it is safely under the critical strain limit of that area. However, this may be different in different scenarios, like maybe a tunnel or, as I said, a bridge. A small movement can create huge tensions to develop. Strains can create stresses, or vice versa. Stresses can also create a strain in different conditions. So in these cases, it can be such that this limit of strain that is developed is unsafe or not suitable for working to continue. So in every situation, there is a threshold strain or a critical strain limit. If the suppose in our case slope is going above that critical zone, it is considered to be unsafe, irrespective of what is the overall factor of safety. Sometimes even overall factor of safety may be already failed. It may be less than 1 or sometimes. But if the critical strain is in acceptable limit, those times it can be considered safe as well. So it depends on what kind of application we are doing. So critical strain criteria, calculating the critical strain and the threshold strain and deciding the stability of that part accordingly is most of the times done in these days numerical simulation methods. We'll be doing this when we will be discussing in the simulation part, the computer application part, as well as the finite element analysis part. So as I might have told you before, there are different ways in which we can simulate a slope. So one of them is finite element method, where the whole slope is divided into different elements, and each element is individually calculated for its displacement, its how much it is moved due to various stresses, and so on. So in that case, we basically can easily calculate the critical strain for each and every element or each and every node that connects those elements. And accordingly, we find out what is the probable failure area, or the failure circle, or the failure surface, or which is the highly critically problematic areas. So that can be done. We'll be practically doing these critical strain analysis when we go to the finite element analysis part of this section, this course. Another method to find out what is the slope safe or not is the probability of failure, to find the probability of failure. Now, as I was saying, we can't get 100% estimate of each and every property of material. We can't get to know what is its strength exactly at every point of the slope, due to different geological discontinuities, due to different maybe conditions, due to different erosion patterns, due to different different criterias might be active in different zones of the slope. So in the probability analysis or the probability of failure analysis, what is done is, in place of getting a single value for these parameters, we use a probability function that, okay, most probably 60 or 70% of this of the strength of this rock will be 100 kilopascal. 20% might be ahead of these 60%, so it may be maybe 150 or 200 kilopascal, and 20% of these cases it will be less than 100 kilopascal, maybe 40 or 50. So on this basis, we create a distribution curve, a normal distribution curve, where we know, okay, maximum values lie in the middle, and the values, the rarer values, the higher and the lower ones lie on the side. Based on this, then we calculate what are the resisting forces, what are the forces that are inducing a slide or a failure. And based on these probability distributions, we find out what is the chance of failure, what is the difference between these probabilities, probability distribution. Suppose a probability distribution curve of resisting forces and the probability distribution curve of uh, 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 destabilizing forces. These the difference between these two is a large part of this is less than 1. So, oh, less than 0. So less than 0 means it is already, the resisting forces are already less as compared to the slide inducing forces. And that case becomes the instability part. So in place of that exact point where there will be instability, we get a whole region in which the instability will be there. So that also we'll be discussing very briefly how these probability functions are there, how these are calculated and how these are created, and where these are applicable. It may not be required in every case. We may not require a probability distribution for any slope we try to find the stability of. So where these are required, where they are applicable, we'll discuss that. And the fourth one that we will talk about is the load and resistance factor design, the LRFD. So LRFD was an approach that was used basically in mechanical engineering for design of parts or mechanical parts, where the load and the resistance, both of these are factored based on, again, a probability function. But for geotechnical aspect, or for the aspect of civil and civil related slopes, such as retaining structures or the reinforcement, these type of factors are also used. So this we will also touch up, but will not focus too much on that, because our focus will be primarily on the first three, and more will be on the first two methods, that is factor of safety and critical strength. So coming up today, we'll start with the factor of safety. So factor of safety, as we saw, it's strength by stress, or it can be the sum of resistive forces to the sum of driving forces that are driving the destabilization or the instability causing forces. So either it can be in terms of strength and stresses that will have the unit of pascals, individual units, or it can be in terms of forces, because considering if it is has a same area of application, both will be, the denominator and the numerator side will be crossed, and they will get force in terms of forces. So both of these methods we can use while we calculate the factor of safety. And as I said, depending on the type of working, acceptable factor of safety is different in different cases. So for open cast mines, when we talk about our cases of the slope, the benches and the pit slopes that we talk about, generally the factor of safety that is accepted is more than 1.2 to 1.5 or 1.4. While for foundation and dams that are civil structures that have to stay for a long amount of time, uh, a factor of safety maybe more than 2 will be the limiting factor of safety that will be acceptable. So again, based on what application we are doing and where we are working, where we are dealing with the slope stabilization part, factor of safety will change. The required factor of safety will change. So saying that foundation is stable with a factor of safety is 1.2 may not be correct in that sense. Or saying that in our case, if it is 1.1 or something, that also is not acceptable. So based on what kind of work we are doing. So in case when we say strength over stress, when we say factor of safety is strength over stress, generally most of the failures that we talk about in our cases, especially in mining and civil cases of slope failure, we are dealing with the shear failure criteria. Shear failure, as I was saying, the most commonly commonly used method for basically deciding what is the shear strength, what is the stress that falls in that zone, and whether it will be safe or not, is derived by the Moore-Coulomb failure criteria. Now, Moore and Coulomb are two different scientists. One of them started with the concept of sigma tan theta part, where he decided that okay, the shear strength is highly dependent on the angle of friction that is seen, and and the factor that defines how much it is dependent is the confining stress that is defined by the sigma bar or the sigma dash that we see in this equation. However, if there was another factor that was there, that was cohesion, and when more, I think Coulomb was there. So both of them combined this so that the Moore-Coulomb criteria came up as C plus sigma tan phi. And coincidentally, it was such that it basically is a representation of a straight line, that is y equals to mx plus c, where m can be equivalent to the tan theta part. The m is the slope of that line. X is the effective normal stress in terms of sigma dash, and y is the shear strength. However, C here, you see the C is where the line intercepts the y-axis is the point of the cohesion. So cohesion can be found in that. Now, any stress that is applied to certain material which falls under this line can be considered as safe, because this the portion below this line is the stress is always less than the strength. The portion above this line, the strength is less than the stress. Did I say wrong? No. Okay. Below this line, whichever the area is highlighted, the stress is less than the strength. Above this line, the stress is more than the strength. So the failure criteria will be anything that is outside this envelope that we are seeing. So this is also called the Moore-Coulomb envelope or the Moore's envelope. So this is generally obtained by something, if you have done or not, I'm not sure, the triaxial testing condition. So a rock or soil sample, whichever we want, is tested under different confining stresses. So under different x-axis values, we test how much at what strength or at what stress it fails, and we get the x and y values of that. So once we plot those, we basically can find out what is this line that is coming from that triaxial testing, and we can interpolate the C and phi, and that is the process of finding internal angle of friction and cohesion for these cases. So this was about the Moore-Coulomb failure criteria or the Moore's envelope, if we see. Now, some basic idea we have of how the shear strength will be there, but what it actually means in a practical scenario, how it can be translated into field work. So let's have a small exercise where in this figure, this the upper part, we see a plane that is that can be considered as a plane of failure. A block of block mass, if we have, because we are seeing in a two-dimension place, this is a triangular mass, but it's a block, if we consider a three-dimensional way of weight. W is uh, basically placed and is ready to slide over this plane. However, there are two things that are resisting it. It's friction with the surface as well as its cohesion. So can we find out what will be the factor of safety in this case? Now, what we have, first of all, in such an example or in such a scenario, how we proceed with this? What information do we have? First information we have is the area of contact that is denoted here, the plane this is A. So assuming we are looking into a unit width, suppose a width of 1 meter, the area of application or the area of on slide is given by A. So if 1 meter is the width, so this length is A meters, something like that. Second thing that is given is the weight of the block is W. All right. So weight in itself is already a quantity of force by itself. However, when weight is given in kgs, we have to convert it into newtons. This is a very important part most of us miss on our first, when we try it first, that units of all these basic parameters have to be clearly understood. When we talk about weight, and if it is given in kg, it's actually mass that we are talking about, not weight. But if it is given that weight of suppose 500 kgs, so what that means is the weight will be equivalent to 500 kgs of mass. So 500 kgs of mass multiplied by the gravitational constant, that is 9.82. That will be giving us the actual weight in newtons. And that always we have to keep in mind that we have to convert this value into newtons and then use it, because we are equating forces and stresses. So force will be in Newton and stress will be in pascals. So that the concept of unit, if we take care and we know basic trigonometry, how things will be calculated, it's a piece of cake, and not even we can do 11th or 12th student can do it, because very simple calculations are there. So coming back, angle of slide we know is psi p, as it is given in this condition. So what are the stresses? First of all, if we remember our equation of factor of safety, it is strength by stress. So what are the stresses that are creating the instability? So if we have, because we have resolved the weight into two components, W cos theta, W cos psi, and W sin psi. So the W sin psi force component is the component that is creating instability. Now, how to calculate the stress that it is, the resisting stress? So the driving stress, that will be the driving force divided by the area of contact. So W sin psi by divided by the area A. That is the stress that is being created on this block. What is the next part? Calculating the strength. Now strength can be calculated simply by Mohr-Coulomb's equation. So that was C plus sigma tan phi. Now sigma in this case, sigma bar will be the sum of the normal reaction, right? So normal reaction, how much it is? If we see W cos xi pi is the Xi p is the component of normal reaction, because that is the stress of weight that it is forcing towards the plane, and that will be the component that will define how much friction is acting on that. Also, another factor that is acting on this is C, the cohesion. So cohesion is its unit is also in terms of kilonewton per meter square or Pascal. So basically, when we get a cohesion unit in kilonewton per meter square or Pascal, we have to multiply it uh, by the area of contact in order to change it into force. But now, right now, we are talking about stresses and strength. So C cohesion can be taken as it is. So just translating everything into the Mohr-Coulomb equation, so tau equals to the strength is equal to C cohesion plus sigma dash, that is W cos xi pi, as we saw in this case, and tan theta divided by the area, because now we are talking about sigma. So W cos xi pi is the force applicable on A area, that becomes sigma dash and tan phi. So tau equals to C plus sigma dash tan phi becomes this equation that is in front of you now. What is left? Just putting it in the numerator and putting the above one in the denominator. Factor of safety becomes C plus W cos xi pi tan theta by A and W sin xi pi by A. A getting cancelled and A coming to the C. Finally, we have a very simple equation for any simple planar failure that we see in this case. That is CA plus W cos xi pi tan phi by tan theta by W sin xi pi. Very simple, very easy calculations. And this is the fundamental of how factor of safety will be calculated even in some simulation softwares. And this method is basically termed in terms of limit equilibrium method, or in which the equilibrium is seen between the resisting force or resisting stress and the driving stress. So before we move forward, if you guys have any questions till now, please ask. We can have some discussion before we move forward in this, because next we will be moving to certain more complexity in the same scenario. Yes, Rohan. Rohan? Guys, yeah. Who is there? Rohan is there?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Sir, this is Prabhu, sir.
Yeah, Prabhu, tell me.
Sir, does this cohesive force always act along the line of plane? Because in this mass balance equation, if we equate in mass,
Prabhu, can you repeat? I think somewhere voice is cutting off. Can you repeat your question again, please? Or you can type in the chat if that is not. I think the voice is cut off. You guys can hear me, right? Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. 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 So Prabhu, if you can hear me, I think your voice was cut off. Can you please write your question in the chat box, chat section? Rohan has a question. Sir, shall we consider the weight given to be the unit weight, or is it the total weight? So unit weight is something different than the total weight. Total weight is See, unit weight, don't get confused with unit weight or density or weight or mass. All things are very clear and very different. Just to give you an idea, unit weight is the ratio of weight of certain object with respect to unit weight is the weight of certain density of certain object with respect to density of water. Okay, that is different. But यहाँ पे we are talking about the absolute weight that is acting in terms of force. The measure of that weight will be in dimensions of force. So what force is applicable? Now, when we talk about our weight, it's ourselves. So when we talk about weight, we actually mean the force that we are applying to the ground. However, it is the unit of weight is never kg. It can be kg force. The kg force is simply whatever the weight it is. Suppose we are someone's weight is 70 kg. So 70 kg multiplied by the gravitational constant that is in that zone. Suppose 9.8. So 70 into 9.8, that will be the weight that is applied in newtons. And that is whenever we talk about these kind of calculations, we talk about this weight, the actual weight of that material. So when we talk about in kgs, it means the kg force or the or it represents the mass of the material. So be very clear when we are using these units. Abhi, if we have time, right? Yeah. So we will be talking about one more example where we will be doing these calculations and how these will be affected and how we convert these things. That also will be more clear to you guys. So Rohan, does that answer your question? Or is there a confusion in that? Yes, sir. Okay. Prabhu, you had some question, or is he gone, or is he here? I think he got disconnected. Like looks like. Okay. Indrajit. Indrajit asks, in opencast mines, are we considering factor of safety only for slopes or any other parameters? When we talk opencast mines, it is based on what type of analysis we are doing. Generally, in terms of most of the companies that we work, suppose most of the mining companies, they accept a factor of safety as the judgment criteria generally. However, these days, because we have superior techniques of numerical simulations as well, so we have to consider also the other ways like critical strain and all. However, because it's not easy for everyone to understand what a critical strain means in terms of how much strain is threshold, and beyond that we can't accept. So generally these kind of analysis we have to convert into some sort of factor that is representing the factor of safety. So yes, factor of most of the cases in opencast mines, we go for factor of safety as the criteria for judgment of stability. However, in many of the analysis, we won't get that factor of safety. So if that is a requirement, we have to convert that. So even the critical strain condition can be converted into a factor of safety condition by using certain methods, such as strength reduction factor is one method. There are other methods also where we can basically convert into the terms of factor of safety. Is that does that answer, Indrajit? Oh yes, okay. Anyone else? Then we can move into a bit complex. Or what I will do is, let's take how can we get CN5? Anup, CN5 we get by a process called triaxial testing. in triaxial testing, what we do is, because uh, by this equation, the Mohr-Coulomb equation, what we need is a straight line. So a straight line, by the intercept of the straight line and the uh, slope of that straight line, we can find out the c and phi easily. Now, how to get that straight line? We do this by a triaxial testing setup. In this, we give different confining stresses and break the sample under normal like UCS work, but with confinement. So in UCS, that is called the uniaxial testing. So uniaxial means in one axis. In triaxial, we do the stress on every axis. In that case, when we know the confining stress and then we know at what stress the rock failed, we can get that that line, straight line, or the similar curve that we were seeing recently for Mohr-Coulomb, and that will be how we get that line, and the intercept of that will be c, and the slope of that will be phi. Okay, so if you guys have these, we can also have some maybe a short one-day class on how these parameters are found, C, phi, strength, and Atterberg limits, how these tests are there. So maybe if we get time, we will also discuss that also. So don't worry about that. Keep your questions with you so that we don't forget what we don't understand right now. And anytime we get, we will address all those. Okay, so moving on, let's take an example for this kind of calculation, simple example, before we come to a complex one. Okay, before that, so we get a factor of safety that is with this formula. What will happen if there is no cohesion? So for a clean sliding surface, like in the plane that connect, and that is the plane of failure, if that is very clean, it doesn't have any cementitious material, or it doesn't have any way to basically hold on to the upper block, the C becomes zero. The cohesion between these two blocks becomes zero. So the equation basically reduces to factor of safety becomes the ratio of cosine tan of the internal angle of, or the friction into the ratio of tan of the xi p, or the slope angle, or the angle of plane, failure plane. And this basically is the equation of sliding. If we equate theta with xi p, if theta is equal to xi p, the factor of safety is 1, and that is the condition in which the block will slide in case the cohesion is 0. So that is similarly like the angle of repose, how we calculate, or the how we calculate the friction. Simple, this equation reduces to the sliding condition, and that's how we see that actually this equation works, because when we have this equation and we can derive the known equation or the known condition of sliding, that means it is actually true and representative. So with that in mind, we have another condition where where the water is introduced. So before moving on to that, let me give you an example. So a road cut slope, guys, now is the time you take out your pens, papers, and calculators. Okay. So a road cut slope has a sliding plane angle of 45 degrees with effective failure block weight of 500 tons. So sliding plane angle 45 degrees, that is xi p. Effective failure block weight, that is 500 tons. The joint has cohesion of 85 kilonewtons per meter square. So cohesion, the C value is given, and a static friction angle of 30 degrees. So friction angle is also given. Area of contact is 50 meters square. So A is also given. I think everything is given in this. So find if the slope is stable. In rains, the weight of the block increases to 550 tons due to absorption maybe, while the infilling cohesion reduces to 30 kilonewton per meter square. What will be the stability of condition of rain? Oh, perfect example to see how we can demonstrate what we learned right now. So what all do we have? We have area, that is area of contact is 50 square meters. We have weight. Weight is given in 500 tons. Now see how important it is to convert it into uh, the units of force. So 500 tons, we convert it into first kgs. So that is 500,000 kgs. Then we convert it into newtons by multiplying it with 9.8. And then we got in kilonewton by dividing it by 1000. So 500 tons translates to 4900 kilonewtons. We have xi p. Xi p is 45 degrees, right? In the figure, we can also get a good look at what it is. And we have theta equals to 30 degrees. So the friction angle is 30 degrees. C is also given 85. So very simple. C A plus W. So I am waiting for you guys. You can calculate this and give me the answer quickly in the chat box or by raising hand. Anyway works. So just put the values in the formula and very easily we can come up with the factor of safety. Yes, who can calculate quickly? Karo. Okay, we have one answer. It is 1.803. Okay, anyone else? Who else has got? Amritesh has given the answer of 1.803. Amritesh, you can start calculating the second part. If when the water is there and the things change, then what happens? Guys, come up with the answer quick. It's very simple. Just put the values, calculate. Perfect. Robin has also come up with the answer. Yes, others, guys. इतना difficult नहीं है. Yes. Correct. Okay. So yes, all you guys who have got the answer is correct. It was just putting the values because conversions are already done. So the answer is yes, 1.80 to any significant figures you can take up. Does anyone has any doubt in this till now? Anyone didn't get the answer or didn't understand what happened here? Anyone? No? So taking the second part is also very simple, formula based. Anyone got the second part? The B part of it? So B part is area is same. Now the weight is changed. Okay, Amritesh has his first, second answer as well. Other guys, come on, what did you get? Very simple. Weight is changed, xi is same, theta is same, and C has changed. Again, simple application of formula. अमितेश के लैपटॉप पे कर रहा है कि इसमें इतनी जल्दी कैसे कैलकुलेट कर रहा है? Perfect. Come guys, last few answers please. Yes, Akshat, correct. Anyone else got any other value? No? Yes, Swati, it's correct. So yes, the answer is simply 0.97 because even though the increase in weight had also the effect of increase in friction, but the cohesion it decreased to such an extent that it became less than 1. Perfect, Vishal. Perfect, Anup. Correct answer. So Due to this decrease, now the slope has become unstable. So this kind of scenarios come. What happens is, why this weight increase is there? The weight is increased due to the absorption of water in the block. So due to whatever the material may be, it may be sandstone, it may be a soil mass, or it may be a combination of these two. Uh, it can be highly absorbent of water. So 50 tons of water is absorbed basically in this. So that has created a bit of more stresses are there. However, these weight in itself can also increase the friction, but because cohesion has decreased to such an extent uh, that it had become a failure. So we as engineers, we have to take care of both of these cases, saturated and unsaturated cases, because many of the failures you see, in fact, in civil part, most of the failures happen due to either water related or heavy rainfall or water buildup, hydrostatic pressure or something on the other. So in seasons of rain, you will see how many failures have happened in news as well as others. So considering both of the cases is important. In some cases, like in this example, it is already given how it is the cohesion is changing or how much the weight gain is there. But these are basically very tough, or not very tough, but time-consuming tests that we have to do in order to find how cohesion of the plane will change when water is there, or how much the weight gain of the mass material will there. So this was just to this kind of questions are just to give you an idea how things will be done. Uh, we have 5 minutes. So I want to give you a very important concept of what happens in case there is a tensile crack and water fills up in this kind of in this kind of slope. So how factor of safety can be calculated in these cases, and how the changes are there. So going back. Yeah. So in this condition, we see uh, we see there is a tensile crack on top. If you guys can see now. So this tensile crack goes to a certain depth, and the water table, because the water is being absorbed or water is being infiltrated through the crack as well as through the surface of the slope as well. So there will be a water head that will be developed. Now you see how this water head is changing. The point at which the slope ends or the plane ends, that time it becomes almost nil or zero. And same is there uh, with the position of the crack. So this kind of jointing is called open joints, where water is allowed to basically pass through, and the pressure buildup at that point is the hydrostatic pressure buildup at the open joint point is zero. So these kind of joints are called open joints. So what do we have here? Area of sliding contact again is A. So the area of sliding contact here is this much only, not the vertical part, just the horizontal. This is the slide part or the slope part, plane part. Weight of the block again is given as W. Angle of slide is IP same. Height of tensile crack is given as HW. We can see how much from the end of the plane to the height of the crack where the crack ends. That is given as HW. And the sliding joint is open at one end. That is very important part. That is why this kind of triangular hydrostatic pressure has built up. Otherwise, if this would have been closed, the pressure buildup would have been from ground or the point of closure till the top of the crack. So that would be a much bigger water head. So considering this case, and they have given that there is some pressure that is being exerted U that is towards the slope, and there is some hydrostatic pressure V that is towards the in the horizontal direction because of the crack. So considering this case, we have to find the stability of this shaded block. how do we find? So we first calculate what are the, because other factors almost are same. We calculate what are the forces that are being developed by the water. Okay, so since hydrostatic head is assumed to be applicable in form of triangular force, if you see here, so we can basically see the head that is developed is rho gh. Rho gh is the head that is developed, and to convert it into force, we have to basically multiply the area of application. So area, if we assume that we are the depth or the depth of this is 1 unit, because we are considering it as 2 dimension. So the area will be basically half of the this length, or each length, the slope length as well as the height HW. So in case of V, the rho GH is half rho GH into height of crack, that is HW. That is the V, or the stress that is caused in the horizontal direction due to the force that is caused due to the hydrostatic head in the horizontal direction. Towards the slope, similarly, we can find rho GH, and area we already know A is there, and half because the triangle is the force is distributed in a triangular pattern. It's not uniform. So half rho GH into W. Similarly, we have find U and V both. Now, basically, we have to put it in equations. Very simple. Calculating the driving force as we were doing before. Is this time the driving force will be W sin xi plus V cos xi. Now this time what we are doing is we are not calculating in terms of stress. There is the other formula of factor of safety, the summation of forces, resisting forces, and the summation of driving forces. We'll be using that equation. So calculating the driving forces, this is the W sin xi plus V cos xi. Calculating the resisting forces, cohesion, first of all, that was there, and friction. So friction के लिए we calculate the normal stress. The normal stress is normal stress. What it constitutes? The weight component W cos xi, right? U, because it is acting directly opposite to the weight, and the component of V, that is towards the slope. So V sin xi, and that are all the components that are giving the normal force. Normal force into tan theta, that is friction. So a total all the summation of all the resisting forces become cohesion, this part, and friction. Now simply again, summation of resisting forces upon summation of driving forces, that becomes Ca plus W cos xi minus U minus V sin xi into tan phi upon W sin xi p plus V cos xi p. I'll take 1 or 2 minutes more just to explain what happened here. We have basically introduced the components that are driving and that are resisting. Resisting in the components that are resisting are contributing towards reduction in friction or increase in friction, whatever the case may be. And the components that are driving are the hydrostatic pressure that is exerting more force to basically dislodge that block. So the component U is directly perpendicular to the slope, so that is taken as it is, while the V is resolved into two parts, that is V sin y and V cos xi, and both of these components are taken accordingly on the numerator and denominator. So this is how we calculate in different cases, whatever the stresses may be, whatever the forces may be, we can calculate the factor of safety in that case. In case there is a bolt will be basically increasing the resisting force, because it will be putting more normal reaction. So if a tensile bolt is there to support this, there will be a normal reaction that will be supporting, and that will be added on both sides. So in that way we can do some stuff. So I'll close the class here. I have few assignment questions for you. This we have already done. because we don't have already overshot with the time. So there are some more questions which I wanted to discuss. Tomorrow is holiday or not? Anyone has any idea? No. So let me find out if tomorrow we have a class. But tomorrow, anyways, we don't have a class. So we'll be meeting on Thursday, right? Okay. So I'll be giving you few this assignment that is there. This is for calculating factor of safety in different scenarios. Just we had done the UV scenario where the hydrostatic pressure was there. Now we have to do some different scenarios. This will be a little bit of a mental exercise how things will be done. In these first cases, there is a bolt in the first scenario. Then there is a water scenario with a closed joint. And then there is a bolt in the same scenario with the bolting as well as water pressure. So in each case, we have to find out what is the factor of safety, and we have to do this similarly as we did for the water exercise. So try to do that. Let's expect it by Thursday end after the class. So we'll discuss some of it in the class as well, and after the class it will be due. Okay. So I'll be giving you this assignment today. I think you will have 2-3 days, and yeah, let's do that. Okay, guys. That's it for me today. I'll be closing now because I think you will be waiting for the next class. I'm so sorry for taking 5 minutes more. That's it, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you in the next class at 3:15. Computer applications. Okay, guys. Thank you. Go have the next class. I think the professor will be waiting.